is my very cute son. Is there an empty chair nearby? Come on, this chair.
This one. Oh, come on, Duncan. This did this last time. Duncan, take your mat.
I will now fall into my own table and crush it.
Oh, no.
Goodbye, everyone. Let's just tempt fate. Don't look. Yeah. Just stay there. So this thing that I just spent a bunch of time building, my father made for me. My father is in his 80s, made it probably about 10 years ago, maybe not quite that long. And he doesn't understand what I do, like most fathers. It's the second time he's made something for me, and he said, well, you know, I can't support a lot of weight. What are you putting on here anyway? Well, books, or print. What is a print? So the whole system is kind of like me explaining to a blind person what the color red looks like. But you know, it's nice to do a little thing with your father that doesn't understand you, and is always thought of you as slightly a disappointment compared with your much manlier brothers. Let me find my notes here. Here we go. So, I'm really good at this. I'm a cartoonist, as you may or may not know. I'm not that famous, but compared to almost everyone I know who sells comic books at shows, I crush them. Because the one advantage I have over most cartoonists is I came into comics through running a comic shop and then running a convention, which is here's a hard to find in Charlotte, North Carolina, north of here. About 4 hours, very boring driving. And then here's the convention day. Right. And I started at City Island there, which was a sub-convention just for like mini comics and cool things, and comics with cuss words in it. So my earliest experiences before being a cartoonist and before even really drawing seriously were selling comics, merchandising comics, which is figuring out how to like set up a space so that someone like looks at it as opposed to just walks by it. And then also running a convention, so knowing the nuts and bolts of like table location, lighting, what's included, is there power, like all the like little things that can like mess you up when you show up to a place unprepared, or 15 minutes late. So the leg up that I have is just being a retailer. It's really natural for me to sell a thing. And most cartoonists are not good at that, and, which is fine, because honestly, the ability to sell stuff is a dumb talent. The ability to make art is a great talent. I'm way better at selling my art than I am at making it. And in the other talks that I'll give or have given, or if I talk to a class that you're in, you'll hear me say a lot of like very high-minded ideas about the place of art and challenging yourself, and not worrying about sales and not worrying about what people want. And that's all true until it's time to sell. Now all that goes out the window, and I'm just a machine selling comics for whatever the time period is, 8, 9 hours, or whatever shows you go to. Just relax, calm down. So, there's a few things that I do that I think are really good, and I enjoy sharing them because they're all easy dumb tricks. I don't have any shtick. I don't have any secret. There isn't like a gimmick that I employ. I mean, you can kind of see the main gimmick, which was be noticeable. Even though my table is falling apart, it's so old now that it's like, you can see it. It's like an old leaky boat. But it's hot. So if you're in a convention center or in a room like this one, it's like a focal point. I put a lot of like colorful stuff on it. I try to like, I'm standing behind it the whole time. So if someone does like appear and have a question, there's a person there rather than the thing. How many of you have ever tabled at a show before? And how many of you have been to a comic show? And are you familiar with this thing? No, please just calm down. I'm not coming to talk to you. You know the thing where someone walks by and they're just like, I'll pretend that you guys are tabling. And just be like, it's like way. When I go to a show, and I'm fairly social, you know, I'm not afraid of talking. I'm talking to all of you right now at one time. When I go to a show, I'm like, I don't want to buy a bunch of stuff. I don't want to buy stuff that I didn't really want to go home and be like, why did I spend $8 on this? So figuring out how to cross that gap is one thing that's really useful to be able to do in table. But I'll get to that. So the main thing when you're going to a show, let's say a good example is SPX. It's probably the show I do that is the coolest and best and good at selling stuff. Have any of you guys been to SPX before? It's in Bethesda? Oh, almost nobody. Well, I think we should all try SPX. Even if you're just going en masse to like shop around. It's very cool. It's all in a hotel. Everyone's kind of chummy. It's a great place to meet people. Made a lot of early friends in comics. But also there's like, I don't know, maybe 500 tables in there. And everyone, it's like a cacophony of noise and so forth. So it's a good place to test yourself. And people show up there wanting to spend money, so it's a good place to sell stuff. I think I had probably my best convention ever this past SPX a couple months ago, after the 2+ years of pandemic. So, I mean, probably it's just people wanting to spend money out of like, freedom at last. Because pandemic's over, right? So when you go to a show like that, a really important thing to do before you go to the show, because I think what a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of this as well, is you're just like, yeah, I'll do that show. And then the show comes, you're like, oh shit, I gotta have something for that show. And then you bust your hump, and then you end up at a table that you spent $300 on, and you said one little minute, and you're kind of like, and your reason for being there is kind of unclear to you, because suddenly you're just sitting at a table bored while people walk past you. Just calm down. I'll hold it in mind. It was also another mistake you can make is bring your dog to an event where the dog is just going to be a nervous pile of like shedding. The thing to do when you go to a show is go to any kind of thing where you're going to be professionally in front of people. This could be I'm going to a cool dinner. This could be I'm doing a presentation at a swanky art college. This could be whatever it is. This could be I'm going to a SPX to sell books. What do I want? When I go, what I want mainly is to sell stuff. I want to make 2 months of rent, if possible. Anything past 2 months of rent, I'm like, yeah. And I spend all of that on like the table and the travel and the whatever. But everything in comics really you need to think of as a multiple of 4. Like if you make a comic book, it costs you $1, then you should charge $4 for it. Because A, you probably didn't factor your time into that cost. B, if you wholesale it, you can only double that price. You're going to have to give someone a discount. So, same thing goes with the cost. If I made $1,000 at a show, I'm like, wow, $1,000. And then I forgot that the table costs $300. Gas to get there, the airfare costs $200. Hotel costs $400. Now I've made $100 or less because I've eaten, I've drunk, I've bought drink. No, I did great today. I'll buy it around. And then I get home, I have $0. Sometimes I have negative $100. So asking yourself what you want is a good way to set your expectations for the show you're about to do, and also like give yourself space to do different things. Like I only care about making money. I already have friends. I'm well connected. I don't need to network. That stuff happens by accident anyway. But some other things that people do that I think are good reasons to go do a show. Oh, I wrote this in orange ink, so it's super legible in this light. Self-promotion is a big one. Sometimes you go to a show like that and you're brand new, and you just want people to know you, to remember you. So that means maybe you're not thinking about money in the slightest. If anything, you're giving your stuff away. Like, please take it, I appreciate it. Give it to people whose work you like. Give it to people who you think might be useful to you. Give it to people that you're friendly with. Give it away. And that's really fun and relaxing to just not think about making money, because you get a lot of like much more true interactions with people. by being kind and nice to them than you do by trying to wring every bit of value. And I made a lot of friends early on in comics that way, just kind of being like a helpful, nice guy. People go to these things to network. I am not a big networker. I mean, I do it accidentally, but I'm not very ambitious. So I haven't really employed much of my network, which is like kind of a waste, but whatever. I did plan that correctly. And sometimes people go just to be social. I also have getting out of the house as a reason. Seeing a new town, traveling is fun. Buying stuff, I never do that. Getting excited about comics, I could stand some of that. And consummating your torrid internet romance. That might be a thing where you're like, I'm finally going to meet Sheila in person. These are all good reasons to go do a show. My reason is to make money, so that's mostly what I'm going to talk about. When I talk about other stuff, like in my inking demo tomorrow, and almost anything where I talk about art, I really enjoy violating orthodoxies and like specific ways that people do things. Because you're artists, you should be like messing it up and making ugly stuff on purpose, and then somehow it's really cool, and you're like, yeah, I did that. But for this, I'm going to say that the way I do it is the right way. Doesn't mean that you have to do it the right way, because it's built around my natural skill set, being a decent talker, having a background in selling stuff. But I'm going to present it as if this is the right way to do things. So, in terms of making money, gosh, I write so small. The first thing is setting up effective retail space. Part of that means communicating with the convention ahead of time. Understanding, like when you're applying to be go to SPX or MICE or the mini comics thing on Saturday. I heard today that it is first come, first serve on tables. But if you help set up, I don't know if this is a secret or not.
No, it's true.
Then you get like first pick on Friday. So as soon as I heard that, my brain was like, I'll definitely be there Friday. It sounds like I don't need to be, but in my mind I was like, yes, I want to pick the table. I want the table that's near the door but not right in front of the door. I want it to be very visible and have good lighting. When we came in, I was like, oh, I think this lighting's better than that lighting. I want to be near my friends. So that means communicating to whoever's running the show, hey, will you put me next to Ben Sears or Mason Dickerson or Duncan? We know each other, so now Duncan and I were, table mates. We can chat. We'll have a more relaxed, pleasant show, and we'll both do better at selling things because we're comfortable. And then when I need to go to the bathroom, get a meal, spot each other's tables. That's huge. This past SPX, I didn't really know my table mates. I mean, I made friends with them, but my regular table mates didn't travel with me, so it was a lot of like, so have you been drawing long? And you drew all that? Oh. Which is not bad, but it's not great. It's more fun when you have your friend there, so you can be like, hi. That's fun. That's the kind of thing that I like to do. But knowing the table layout, huge. You do SPX and you're like, oh man, I love that D10 that I was at. It was like in this cool place, it was on an end cap. Those people, from me running Heroes Con, half the time when I'm setting up the layout, I had no idea what to do. You have 1,000 people that you're fitting into where the table space will be. And so if someone says, I have a preference, now you have a starting place. So that's good. It's not bad to state your preference. It's like, you don't state it in a nasty way. Hey, last time I had a real shitty table. Not a big deal. You say, hey, would you mind placing me next to my friend blah, blah, and we'd love to be where we were last year in this zone. And 9 out of 10 times that person's going to be like, great, no problem, because you're one of only 10 people that have said something like that. And so it's really easy to start that big map by just putting you where you want to go with your friends. Now all your friends are benefiting. They're like, wow, Dustin's really connected, and here's what he's doing. All you did is send an email that says, what if I sat in a good spot? It's real simple, but that's like the kind of stuff that's like, It's the same as like organizing your travel. When can I set my table? Should I show up Thursday night? Or try to like get there right before the show Friday morning? Stuff like that, like just like setting yourself up to have a really successful show, not spend money accidentally, not be like, oh shit, I thought there was gonna be power and I really have to have my, iPad going. It's pronounced iPod in England. I needed power, but I didn't organize that ahead of time. Now what? Do I have to find a extension cord? Can my phone hold the charge long enough? Did I bring my Square reader? Does my Square reader work in Canada where there's a different, banking thing? These are all things to like work out ahead of time. So do all that homework, and that'll save you a lot of headache and time. Okay. I've covered that. Okay, this is a big one. The next thing, now you have your table set up. Oh, and when you set your table up, you want to set up it like a retailer. Now, my table is like listing to starboard here. Ideally, it would be a little more square. And it reads, in this case, from left to right. So if you were standing over there, hopefully you would see one of these and be like, well, that looks cool, let me go check that out. And then, once you get there, the biggest stuff is at the top, most eye-catching. The stuff that you have to like look closer at is more at eye level. Books are where you can easily grab them, page through them. Normally this thing is full of original art, but I sent it all to Duncan to put in on the wall in, where is it?
306.
In 306. We all know where that's at. But the whole idea is that if someone walks up to the table, they're like, I don't want to like, sorry. It's not a good bud either. Very featureless. They're like, okay. There's just a lot to look at, right? I'm knocking all my stuff askew here while I was setting up my thing, but there's just like a lot of things to look at. And the longer someone is looking, interacting with this little store that I've made, paging through the originals, then someone over here is like, well, what's that lady looking at? Is that cool? Because half the time you're wandering around, you're like, visual overload. I know everyone's got the same, 6-foot-high banner with the same boring, like, hi, my name's Gladys McPhee, and I also draw. Like, since everyone has the same shaped sign, they disappear. And so you're just looking around at a bunch of Gladys McPhee, and you're like, everyone that really comes named Gladys. So anything that's a little different is eye-catching. And when people are looking at your table, it's way harder to get one person to look at my stuff when no one is in front of the table. If Duncan walked up to my table at SPX next year, and we start chatting, it's the best. Now, is it a little distracting? Yes. But then, the person that's like, I really don't want to make eye contact with that guy, because that's what I'm trying to avoid. But he's talking to someone. So I'll go and look at this stuff over there. And then I'll stop and be like, we're friends, we're just chatting, so if you have any questions, let me know. Back to chatting. Now the person is relaxed. And they can just look at whatever. And that turns into sales so many times when there's not any pressure from me, that person. Because if I'm just standing there, pretend I didn't have a really cute dog in my arms. And you just want to look at these dumb prints. Oh, I need to buy something for my friend back home. These are stupid. Maybe I'll buy one of those. But I'm just standing there like... Or even worse, and this is bad. And I know that some people who are friends of mine, I'm not saying they're bad people, they're bad people. That's the people with the spiel. Where they're like, hi, I'm Dustin Harbin, and I do this comic, and I do this. And it was basically a story about so-and-so, and he discovers the magic ring one day, and he rolls in, and they fall down a hole, blah, blah, blah. Hi, my name is Dustin Harbin, I make comics, I do this and that. It was a story about a person that over and over again all day. Everyone around you is like, this person is dead to me. Cancel! But also it's like a huge amount of like overload to get to somebody. By the same token, if you don't interact with someone, it's real easy for them to just be like, see you later. Like, when I go into a shop of any kind, I'm the kind of person that doesn't really want to talk to someone. I don't go in and be like, hey, can you tell me where the like sexy underwear is? because I really want some sexy underwear, but I've got a bad butt. Do you have like a form-fitting sexy underwear? I just want to go in there and secretly buy my sexy underwear. I don't even want anyone to even know. Hopefully there's a self-checkout. But, so if you set things up where someone has to talk to you, you might be talking yourself right out of making you sick. Because you're like, definitely, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm like completely overloaded with sensory data in this room. I don't want to talk to anyone. I regret coming to SPX. This guy's got a spiel. I'm hearing about somebody who fell down a hole. It's a story about a clumsy person. So the medium for me, as a person that is happy to talk to anyone, but that respects that people don't like talking, is when someone walks by, I say, hey, how you doing? Let me know if you need anything. Done. That's the only, and you can even cut off that second part. Hey, how you doing? This is nothing. A little eye contact, be nice, and then fade into the background. And if someone wants to like just look, let me do that. That's fine. If there's no like secondary, like I missed a sale, I gotta catch it. You just let it go. If that person pauses a little bit, it's more likely that another person will come by and look at your stuff. And then another person, and half the time, I draw on everything I sell, like every book, make a little sketch. New sketch every time. That takes time, it's annoying. Annoying. But it's like, it slows down the pace of things, where now suddenly there's 6 people from my table, 8 people from my table. Again, I'm not famous. I'm not sought after. No one's coming to SPX to meet me. Oh, you're the best. I've always wanted to meet you. Oh, this is a dream come true. That doesn't happen. You're not like a Jeff Smith. Your comics changed my life when I was a kid. Doesn't happen. But if once that starts to pile up a little bit, now I'm just an interesting spot that people walk by. And then when someone wants to interact with me, I'm perfectly nice. I'm polite. I try to like not be a douchebag if I can help it. It helps if you have a cute dog. And you're like, can I give this dog back to you for a second? He's real relaxed right now. Boy. I gotta drink some water or I'll die on the spot. Retail thing, that's tricky because maybe you don't have like 40 different things to sell like I do. I've been doing this full time since 2010, so I've rotated things out that I just don't want to sell anymore, and I still have tons of different things to sell, which is great to have all that because there's just a lot to look at. But maybe you only have one book. So maybe your setup is just like, I've got, I'm sharing a table with 6 other students, because that's what we can afford. And also we all have one book or 2 books. So maybe that's your thing. So now you're like, how effective can I make this in this little space? Maybe like too much space is like a big table and then one little book in the middle of it. And it looks, like a desert. It's just like not very visually interesting. But you can mess with that. You can like make little things. The setting a retail thing up is like this important. The interacting with people is hugely important. So the thing I would say, like, this is the right way to do it, is not having a spiel. And is just being cool. Here. Hi. Let me know if you need anything. Someone asks a question? Yes. What people almost never ask me is, what is your comic about? No one gives a shit. You'll pick it up. I mean, do you ever go into a bookstore, you're like, hi, do you have any Stephen King books? Great, what are they about? Are they good? It's not how you browse for things like that. You go and you look. Is the cover interesting? Well, this got a car. Is there a dog driving the car? Okay, now I'll look at this. Oh, this is just a bunch of stupid comics about this guy's life. But the person will figure it out on their own. They have questions they can ask you. Like, for instance, here's the next thing. How much is this? Like, one mistake I have right now, because these are the last I have of these, so I got rid of the sign. But normally I would have a sign on everything that's like, this is how much this is. Again, so someone doesn't have to interact with me in order to buy something. They can just go, okay, grab this. Well, his life is pretty boring, and I like boring. Okay, so these are 15 apiece, and this is like, yeah. So they're totally ready to go. And then I'm like, can I draw on that for you? Okay. And then maybe we chat a little bit. Yeah, I know, everyone is thinking about this. That's really weird. Well, and then there you go, take their money, swipe, whatever, cash. It's great, you've got to let it happen itself. If you have no prices on anything, you also create a situation where someone can be bummed out by your price. That's probably $3. How much is this? It's $10. I'll be back. I'm gonna go check the ATM. You'll never see them again. My So anyway. So again, reducing the amount of like interaction that is necessary. If you let someone decide how much they want to interact with you, that's perfect. If you start to control the interaction, that's progressive. And that is like a huge turnoff. Someone like me might be able to like bob and weave with that, but someone that's like, and let's face it, most of us in this room are some kind of like cartoonist or artist or whatever. We're all a bunch of shut-ins. We're weirdos. We're not great at like leaving the house. We're not great at like, I'm going to have a conversation with 100 people today. That's insane. And so you have to respect that. You have to let someone do their own thing, be who they want to be, and not walk away from your table feeling like they escaped a stressful situation. That's not, that's not the kind of situation where when someone reads your comic, they're like, it was all right, I guess. But he was a nice guy. I'll buy the next comic, or I'll say something nice about this. As opposed to, this comic was disappointing, and the guy, now I think about it, a dick. That's not like a good setup for like someone interacting with what we spent a lot of time doing. So, I mean, I guess you have to ask yourself how much that $5 for that book worth. All right, let's see this. Related to salesmanship or the lack of, this one's pretty easy, but being a really good neighbor is also key. In the same way I was saying, like if Doug and I are sitting next to each other, we're comfortable because we're next to each other. We're both in better moods, we both do better. I mean, I'd love nothing more if I sit, do you guys know who Mason Dickerson is? Well, look him up. Mason Dickerson is great. He's like just a very sweet guy. And also, he was terrible at selling his own comics. But when you have me over there, it's like, hey, are you familiar with Mason's comics? Oh, this one's good, and this one's good, and this one's good. That's like, for me, it's fun. Mason, I can see him going pale, like, oh. But it's nice to like stop selling your own thing and like sell someone else's thing. Also hear what they're into. Check them out. Ben Sears and I tape a lot, and he will go find the coolest things and bring them back. He's like, what's this cool thing I got? And I'll be like, that's amazing. Where'd you get it? The last one. Who's gone? So that's really cool, and this is the way to like be in a cool zone at a show. If you don't know the people next to you, then introduce yourself and let them know. Like if you need to change, I've got extra. If someone doesn't have a square meter and you do, this is a thing that I love to do, and I get a lot of points out of it. And it sounds like very Machiavellian, but there are worse bad things you can do than being nice on purpose to somebody. So if someone like forgot their square meter, you're like, oh. Well, I'll run a charge for you. Not every charge, but maybe you have a $100 charge and you don't want to miss that sale. Well, I'll run that charge and then give you $100 cash. Now, I lose money on that because there's like surcharges and whatnot. I probably lose like $3. You are like, that guy did me solid. I appreciate it. And then when I one day get canceled, you'll be like, well, actually, no, I don't want to say anything. I want to get pulled down into whatever target it's like being sucked into. But it's like it's just a nice thing to do. And then also when you forget your square meter, well, then you're like, I don't feel so bad about all the times I like put $2 or whatever. You can't even buy a beer for $2. Oh, I had all these other notes that I skipped right over. Oh, here's a good one. So if my musts are, don't have a spiel, be cool. That's a must. Having a bunch of stuff, not a must. Communicate with the convention, why not? But here's a good must, is never sit down. If you sit down, you see how you can see me right now? How easy it is to interact with me right now? Well, watch this. Can I borrow that seat again? Can I have a volunteer? Anybody? Come on up. Yes. I'd just like you to interact with my table, please. Wow. When you sit down, it is so easy to do the thing where you're like, ignore you, ignore you, ignore you, ignore you. But when you're standing up, you're in business. The store is open. The thing where you're like, do I want to interact with this person or not, changes from like a 10% to a 60% of like, this person's available to me, they made eye contact with me, and they're like, I know. And then they didn't say anything else. So I'm like, I'm not chased away, but I am like, oh, fuck, he saw me. But it also, I learned this actually, even though I was like, Mr. I'm a great retailer, I come from the world of money. I learned this from the CCS kids in 2008, which back then was Joe Lambert, Chuck Borsman, Alexis Frederick Frost, who else? Sean Ford. They came to Heroes Con, and then we all did TCAP together. And those bastards, all of them in a row, were all drawing. Like Joe Lambert does incredible con sketches. I don't know if you guys remember Joe Lambert. Wow, so good. Look him up. He would do these incredible, like European level, you know, and they'll fill up a whole page in the back of the book. What do they call them? You've been a friend. It's like DEDICACE with a little. Maybe. But it's like a dedication, basically, in the book. Like, to Gladys. Wow, there are a lot of you. I kind of wish that this was true, that there were a lot of Gladys. What if I made that happen just by saying it? Just by manifesting. They would stand up the whole time. They would draw on things standing up. They would interact with each other standing up. They would interact with people. And so the four of them together were like, something's going on there. Because everyone else. Did he live in, did Rich Tommaso live in Savannah?
I don't know. He was close.
He's from Georgia. Yeah. Rich I table with, who's great, an incredible cartoonist. He doesn't love the this part as much. And I table with him at Here's Con one time, and he was inking the whole time. And when you're inking, it's like that bad posture, like. So you're looking at like someone's bald spot, and he's an extraordinarily great inker. So I was like watching. I was like, wow, you're a brush inking and a shadow? Incredible. Meanwhile, he'd like look up every hour and say, man, I'm not selling anything. I was like, joy. Because the top of your head is not like doing any work. People are just walking by and like, looks cool. See you later. So standing up just makes it easy. It just makes it easy for people to interact with you. It's not like, don't do this thing where you're out in front of your table like pacing like a hungry tiger. It's just like being easy to engage. Presuming that someone doesn't want to engage with you or doesn't want to be tracked or doesn't want to whatever. So just make it easy for them to like, have something that's cool with you and not be real sticky about it. I said, don't be a salesman. I said, say hello to everybody. Oh, this one is your mileage might vary. It's not a must. What are the musts? Can anyone remember the musts?
Don't sit down.
No spiel. Don't sit down. What? Be cool. Be cool's third on the list. Be a good neighbor. Don't bring a dog. He's being nice now, but it's taking a bit. And maybe a little pee escaping. You know when you sign that whole harmless agreement. No spiel is important. stand up is important. Be cool is important, but it's so much easier. You guys seem like cool people. I'm guessing. I don't know. But that one is easier because you really don't have to do anything to be cool. Being nice to people takes like way less effort than being a shithead. Or, you know, it's like, it's just is so, listen, I don't like making small talk. I hate it. Like, if I got trapped with any of you, and you said the magic words of like, what's it? Oh, did you fly here? What airport? How was your convention? Did you sell some good? It's like one of those things that gets said like 40 times, and so like in my mind, I'm like, escape, run, and sweat starts. I don't like it, but I can fake it. So the other thing, this is the thing that is not necessary. As I was saying, I have a lot of stuff to sell. And it kind of naturally like accretes over time. Like if I make a drawing that's this big, like this original is 8 by 10. I'm not cropping it with different there. But then if it works printing it that big, I kind of spent a lot of money and bought one of those nice, like extra nice printers, but it's extra expensive. And the paper is even worse. But now I can print things on demand and I can try things out. What if I change the color rather than sending it off, paying up front? And so I can try some different things and see what people react to. And then when I come home, I'll be like this thing, which I love. It's a great drawing I made for a friend. I was really proud of it. I love drawing trees. I do it every day until I die. Does not suck. People do not give a shit about that print. They don't like it at that size. They don't like it at that size. They don't like it at any size. Meanwhile, I could sell this walking backwards through the rain, and someone would, hey! Can I buy one of those? It's wet. It's fine. No problem. Because it's like a dog in a spacesuit with a bunch of crosshatching. So it's just like, just hits it. It's such a cash grab, I'm ashamed of myself. But I reprint that. There's like this many of that one at my house and this many of all the other ones. I'm like, can't run out. So the thing that is like, I've got a lot of stuff. I sell way more prints than I do anything else. And the amount of space that all my prints, all these big prints, including like the backstock, like the extra ones, fit in this box, which fits in any carry-on bag. And this is like 80, 85%. Well, my originals I sell. But this is like most of my sales. Whereas books, 10 of this book weigh, oh shit. It's okay to cuss when you go to college. This book, which sells, not great, and not that proud of it, but 10 of them weigh, 8 pounds, take up this much space in my luggage. If I'm flying, it's now like, I'm not going to sell this, but it'd be weird not to bring my Koyama Press book to TCAP, where I'm going to see Amy. Let it bring some more of this. So it's kind of like, these things are great. And also they're great because people buy them without knowing anything about who I am. If you buy this book, which is all about me doing things, there's a long comic about how they play music to bring the cows home in the country where I grew up. So you need to be interested in me if you're going to buy this book. But to buy this dog in a spacesuit, you just have to like dogs, or like space, or both. So most of the people that buy stuff from me do not know anything about who I am. So the thing that I do because of that, because I see that happening, and I'm a little mercantile fellow, I made a little stamp. And I stamp the back of all my prints. So when you get this home, or when your partner brings it to you, and says, I got you something at the thing. And then she's like, oh, great. Oh, this is really good. Who is this? There's like contact information on the back, even if it's just my website. Actually, because I hate paying for business cards, I took the same stamp and watercolored a lot of very fancy paper that even with a 3-inch strip, I'm like, I don't want to throw this away. This costs real blood. So originals are like a nice vector for like extra stuff. So if you draw, if you go to figure drawing, and you make a really good drawing, maybe you sell it. It might make you bad at figure drawing because you're like, I need to make a sellable original, which not the point of throwing a big yard, really. But it's like a nice place to like just add extra stuff. So I'm getting toward the end of my notes and time, so make sure I didn't skip anything. Does anyone have any questions about it? Or does anyone have any criticisms? Or is anyone named Glass? Glass?
My name's not Glass, but I was gonna ask if you had any like I guess advice for when like have you ever had people come up to your table and they're like just flipping through your comics and you can tell they're just reading it
Yep.
and then they leave and not actually
Yep.
buy anything?
Just let it happen.
Just let it
It
happen.
doesn't cost you anything. The bad thing is, do you know what a punisher is? They didn't tell me about this. I think it might come from him being a musician, like he's a punk drummer. Do you guys know Ben Sears' work? Guys, Ben Sears. Ben Sears, Mason Dickerson. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ben is really great. He's a really grumpy sourpuss. He's one of my favorite people. And it's great tabling with him because he's like, I'm like, oh, bebop and scat, bebop and and then he's over there like, rolling his eyes so hard. But Ben told me about this thing called a punisher, which is someone that comes to your table and just talks to you. No. And it's not like in a cool way, like when your friend comes, they're just like, so, I had an Adventure Time, like a sketchbook. Well, my favorite thing you could draw on the Adventure Time sketchbook is like Princess. This is a real conversation I had with someone one time where they told me all the like internal. I like Adventure Time, but I'm not interested. And this conversation sucks. And you've been here for 30 minutes. So that is a punisher. So that is a kind of a punisher situation. I'm taking up space. I may be blocking everything, and I'm reading your comment. But the cost of doing something about it, not worth it. Because what are you going to do? Hey, move it along, buddy. That's not going to work. You're going to have like a ill interaction. They're not doing anything wrong. They might buy it. I've had this happen where I have had someone read all my bullshit and then buy one $5 comic, and I'm like, all right, you're fine. I'll buy that. I'll buy half of an expensive hotel bar beer in an hour with that. But yeah, there's nothing to do about that. I've never seen anyone like Jim Mahfood told me a trick one time where when he's at a con, he'll put these big over-the-ear headphones on, and he'll just let the cord dangle. It's not attached to anything. Because when people see it, when he's not wearing it, people are like, Jim, hey, man, big fan, I love this, I love that. Or they'll be like, want to talk about, rap or graffiti or whatever it is they're vibing with him. But he's like, I just want to go poop. I don't want to have a conversation with him, or I'm tired of talking. I'll put these headphones on. He's like, Dustin, no one has ever caught me. I just walk up. Now, don't say this to anybody. This is just between you and I, just Gladys. But yeah, he's like, no one's ever caught me doing this. It's fantastic. I can be like, and they can say, hey Jim, I just pretend like I did not hear it. And that is fantastic. I love it. Did someone else have a question?
Have you ever dealt with like very problematic customers? Like maybe I've worked in fast food and like some of the people that have like interacted with me before are very like which is and I'm like very let's just say they're not very good people and like I worry sometimes that if I booth at a convention I might meet the same kind of people.
Yeah, and also if you're not like a cis-het white guy, like you're open to lots more of that from people and microaggressions, all the different ways that people can be shaped. I don't experience as much of that. I don't have a thing to do about it. If you're at a convention that's decent, they'll probably have like some stated policies about harassment. There should be someone that you have direct contact with or could feel comfortable being like, hey, there's a weirdo that's been at my table for a long time, and they're kind of aggressive, or they're kind of whatever, or they're kind of stinky. That happens every time. Like an effluvium washing past your table if you are chatting with somebody, then it gets in your mouth. But I don't know thing to do. when I was running here's comes, and by running I mean I was second in command. I was highly placed, but it was not my convention. Well, let's say I was running it, just because it sounds cool. There are only a few times where there'd be a real issue. Besides like stealing, that's like a different thing. But there'd be times where like people might be about to scrap, or there'd be times when someone's like a real weirdo, or was like kind of an ogler. That happens sometimes. It was really complicated to fix it in a way that made the guest feel supported and safe. It also didn't create a worse problem when that person goes nuclear, and you have to now get them from this basement in their convention center out of the building. And you're just a bunch of like comic book nerds, so it's not like you're physically intimidated. Hey, Buster, come with me now, big guy. It's a little hard to like wrangle that stuff. That doesn't mean it's not on the convention organizer to solve that problem. It is, but it's complicated, and that's where you'll see like, oh, these are just weirdos and dummies that run these things that are not making any money. I was being paid. Half the time it's volunteers. People that aren't on the payroll, and they're not really trained to do that stuff. So the best way to handle it is be friends with your table mate. So there's another person, where there's two of you now that are like, hey, you know, there's some kind of like, you're not all alone in this thing. That sounds like terrible advice, but unfortunately the world sucks. And it sucks even worse for us classes. Another question?
So, do you have the same behavior when you were trying to get like customers versus like teacher like connections and employers and whatnot?
I never try to get future connections, but that's not because that's a bad thing to do. It's the opposite. In fact, I've wasted a lot of like I was talking to someone last night. I asked to pitch for something, and I was like, pitch? How does that work? Like, it's a real blind spot for me. So I do think that I would act the same way, and that would be the right way to handle it, rather than like, no, I'm in the field making this. And cons are a good place to meet editors. Actually, I teach inking at a school in Denmark, but I got the gig because I've been watching a lot of Mads Mikkelsen movies, like the Danish ones, so like Pusher and these like early movies. And saw a guy with Danish pin. I was like, is that Danish flag? And I was also like in my like, I'm at a show. It was like me like instigating conversation. It was after the hello. I stayed out of his way. We were just chatting. He's like, yes, I'm from Denmark. I was like, I've been watching a lot of Mads Mikkelsen movies. What brings you here? And he says, well, I run a school. I'm in charge of the comics department. I'm over here looking for teachers. I'd like to teach in Denmark. And he goes, what's your name again? No idea who I was. And not that I am anybody. He was just like, that was one I was proud of because I just kind of talked my, now I've taught there 3 times, which is nice. It's one in Denmark, stayed in the place, south of the country, it's great. I love that job. But that happened because of just being too talkative. But I could spend a lot more time trying to do stuff like that. But if you do get a lot of jobs, then you have to do more work. So, yes.
So, if you're setting up and you're not going to have a keep up with you, if you're sketching, does that have the same effect as being like sitting down and over the inking that you were saying, or is sketching?
If I'm skating up,
intimidating or both?
yeah, no, when I'm sketching, normally, so I'd be spinning about like this. In my sketchbook, a friend of mine makes these, they're like wooden, like hand-bound books, which seems very posh. I mean, it is, but they're great for like sketching out the world because I can hold it flat. You know, it's like sturdy. But also, if I close it now, because my original was 5x7, now I basically have a little artboard. So yes, like this is, I'm still just as accessible. In fact, I'm slightly more accessible because I'm not like, I'm just like, I love how you look away each time. Too much. But it's like, it's a little bit like, this person's a little bit distracting. And they're not as like, doesn't feel as aggressive and interactive. But I'm still available when I'm like this. If I'm sketching in someone's book, man, every time I sketch someone's book too, this is like such a trick that I do, but I'm like, do you mind if I sketch this for you? I do it in every book since 2008. Every single comic I sold, I've like drawn a little something in it. Even when I wholesale, and even the ones I sent to you, I just didn't have them drawn in. I was like in a hurry, but I'll draw. If anyone gets one of these, what class is that in?
The mini comics class.
Mini comics class. I'll draw it for you for free. But the saying, can I draw this for you? They're like, oh, absolutely. Because it's not advertised. And if I was in a real rush, I guess I could skip it, but I never do. It's just a nice thing. And someone's like, oh, this guy's a nice guy. I don't gain anything from it monetarily, but it's just like a cute, I think it just makes me feel like a real person. Questions, anyone? Yes?
For every single new convention that you attend, like, how much do you usually, like, restock on your items?
Great question. I only recently, since I got that printer, which was like not quite a year ago, have I gotten the habit of after the show, like being like, okay, so I've made that print, so I'll print it. Or having an idea of like how many I want to have. And I sell them online too. How many I want to have. But also, if you sell them through the year, then before the show, you kind of need to check it anyway. Like, well, I've been selling that. I don't print a new one each time. Because like these printers are like, it's just better to do a bunch at once, the way the toner works. But yeah, it's a really good habit that I'm only recently, after 12 years, gotten into being like, because then when there's an opportunity, hey, or you forgot, or you've been busy with deadlines, and then you're like, SPX is this weekend. So am I going to stay up all night printing stuff, or do I already have stuff I can just grab and go? Especially when your shit is so complex like this, then it works against you where you're like if you have a table like this, but it's only like half full, then that looks weird. You know, it's not like, it doesn't operate in the same way it's designed to.
Kind of connects, but like, what would you say is like your baseline, like every single convention? Like you said, like you usually like you sold 8, then you like restock the 8. So like, do you like having like at least 20 of each brand or like 10 of each brand?
If it's something that sells a lot, like that dog in the cash grab, to me writing a pop song, you just gotta have a hook. You need a guest rapper at some point, or maybe they're in the bridge. Then yeah, like 20. The ones, depending on how old they're, this like weird turtle I drew like 8 years ago now, but it still sells reliably, but that could be like 10. I know that I'll sell through that number. There's one, let me see where it's at. This one is a print from like, I think also 8 years ago or so. What's this? 44? No, 4 years ago. Wow, what the heck? No, it's longer ago. I just signed it later. This doesn't sell. And so, like, when this one sells, I won't print it anymore. If someone, like, do you guys know what imprint is? I have an imprint store, so I'll just throw those things on there, and if someone wants it, they can find it. But yeah, I mean, like, if it sells well, then I know that I'm not going to regret printing 10 of them. Eventually we'll be reprinting it. If it sells poorly, then just less. Like, what's the priority? A lot of these things, like these things I've been doing, if any of you guys follow me on Instagram, @Harbin, I've been doing these weird vignettes for like the last year. Maybe the last 6 months, where it's just like a little drawing with one word in the middle of it. All waterfall. And that one sold, that was like kind of viral, that one and the one that's like Be Small. But other ones I did, I was like, I love Paul Bunyan, I'll do one with Baby Blue Eyes. I think I sold 2 of those, like in 6 months. So it's like sometimes you just, I'll probably never reprint that because why? It takes up room on the table, it takes up room in my house, where I'm like, where am I going to put all these prints? Corollary to what you're asking that I didn't mention earlier is when you're looking to set up at a convention, there's like a big window that I miss all the time. Like mice just happened. Their cutoff for applications was like 6 months prior. It was way out. So having a calendar where you're like, here's when I need to apply to this convention by. Here's when they're going to let me know if I'm in or not. Here's when I need to buy my plane tickets, like 6 weeks out minimum to get like the best price. Here's when I need to figure out hotel or Airbnb or stay with friends. Like those things, you end up like doubling your travel expenses by leaving them late. And it's just good to like build that time frame into things. In the back.
How do you keep your sanity by talking to people for 8 hours?
I'll be honest, I don't. It's messed up. Like by the end of 8 hours, especially like at SPX, even being here, like talking today, like I've done I mean, it's very pleasant. I don't mean to say anything bad has happened, but it's like talking about yourself for an hour, well, with a lot of breaks while I was messing with dog. Then doing it again, and then doing this. Having lunch, like it's like social. So like I'm crashing a little bit. But that's fine. You kind of like go into it being like, I'm going to run for 8 hours today. As opposed to like you being like, I'm going to work at home. Oh shit, I'm talking to people all day. The weird thing that I do when I do SPX, when I do a lot of comms, is I forget to pee. Because I'm so much in like fight or flight mode the whole time. Trying to just be cool, don't have a spiel. Just be cool, don't have a spiel. Hi, how are you doing? And I'll just forget like all that. This stops operating. I don't even have the urge to pee. It's not like I'm holding it. It's like my body forgot that it was storing up water. And the water is turning brackish, poisonous. And like suddenly it'll be like, oh, where are you guys going to get dinner? Oh, and everyone's like kind of haven't like taken any kind of break. I probably forgot to eat lunch. And they'll be like, oh, I haven't peed. And I go pee and it's the most like noxious, like, is that too much information? I'm saying it's one of those things I'm like, there's a health reason to not like take breaks, also for your brain. Like, you're just going to operate better if you have a little breather where you're like, I'm not in this like fight or flight zone of like social. Then what's our time look like? Are we in?
Couple more questions.
Okay. Who's like passionate about the questions? We only have a couple. Maybe a couple.
So you said like when you want to interact, like when you're standing there, like to fade into the background, but also be available. Like how how do you?
Did I say fade into the background?
Yes.
When did I say that? Roll back the tape. You liar, you bunch of lying glasses. I was misspeaking then. I want to be not in the background, but I just don't want to be like in your face. If that makes sense. But that's not, your question is.
Yeah, like how do you walk that line of being available but not being too intimidating?
Standing. Just standing. Because I feel like every time, it's easy for me, this is like kind of like an analog of like white privilege. It's easy for me to be like, everyone likes to talk at the same speed, volume, intensity as I do. And then you just presume that people operate like that. And so when someone walks up, you make a bunch of eye contact with them, but then they're like, I hate eye contact. So just being, in my experience, just being available and then allowing interaction to happen is fine. Like being here, greeting, like kind of like if this was a store and someone walked in that door and I'm over here working, just be like, hi, let me know if you need anything. Done. Like, no. So, you like comics, eh? Well, have you ever heard Alan Moore? Oh boy, are you in for it? Just like having some small interaction and then maybe fading in the background or still being visible. I think standing does all that.
Do you keep eye contact with
No.
them? Okay. So
I
where do you
mean,
look?
yeah, like if there's only one person there, if I'm drawing something, like standing, but like, so that they're not like, this guy's waiting for me to say something. He's like doing, or if I'm chatting with a friend, that's ideal too. They're like, now they're not the focus anymore, so they can relax. And that's good, just like letting someone be relaxed.
Thank
You? It's such a big question. I need this question.
I'm burning.
You should go pee.
I was wondering if you could tell us of like the earliest memory that kind of told you that you wanted to be in retail and that you wanted to sell and that you were good at it, per se.
There is none. I've never. I was working at an art supply store, and the guy that in the comic shop, Steve Vine, said, "You haven't emptied your bag in a long time. But I knew that you wanted it. I did. But he shamed. He's like, you got like $60 for stuff like that. I was like, oh, well, I'll come and empty it out. And then it turned out someone said they were hiring me, and I just took a job. That was when I was 21. And then 14 years later, I stopped working. So, no, I never wanted to be a retailer. I was really good at it, but it's not the kind of thing that matters. It's not, you're not saving lives. You know, it's like you're selling comics. It's fine. But I don't have any enthusiasm. Which means when you burn out, it's really hard. Like if you run a convention and all year you're like struggling to get all these people, and then you're talking and you're like advertising, come to Heroes Con, blah, 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 the greatest, blah, 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 nothing wrong, you'll definitely have a good time. These tickets are just correctly priced, they're not too much. Then when the thing is over, you've basically been organizing a 3-day party. And the party's for yourself. It's like, come to my birthday's great. And then your birthday's over, you're like, remember my birthday? It's pretty good. It's like, it's easy to get burnt out then, because then it happens at the same time with receiving comics on Wednesday, where you're like, oh, one of the X-Men is leaving, and it's like Cyclops and X-Men No More for the 400th time, and you're like, I gotta get rid of it. I count these fucking things all the time. It's just like so no, I take pride in being good at selling stuff, because I like being good at something, but it's not noble, and I don't think it's laudable. For instance, I would never I would put that on a resume if I was trying to get a job selling something, but I wouldn't be on the date and be like, well, I mean, I'm pretty good at selling comics. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, no, I don't have the earliest memory of that. I do take pride in being good at it, though, because Drew Wine was an early person that I had stated how much I made at SPX early on. It was like $1,000 or something, which I was like, is this good? Because I was used to running a booth where you're selling like Silver Age comics, so that number gets quite high. And Drew was like, Dustin, Harbin made 1,000. What the fuck am I doing? Drew is like he's like this level cartoonist, so I was like, pretty smart. Did you? Yes. And your PR department next to you.
Yes. What are your thoughts on taking maybe simple or like quick commissions on your table?
I think it's great. I hate it. I make the worst drawings. I'm a good drawer. I have like I'm not like too humble or whatever about my drawing, but at shows, oh no. It's like you're hungover and you're like antsy and you're full of weird pee. So it's like, it is so much of like and you want who? And also I don't like drawing sexy stuff. And I'm creeped out when someone's like, can you draw like Harley Quinn? But she's like, she's got like devil horns and let's see. And I'm just like, ah. So if someone asks, I have a lot of blocks in place. I'm like, I'm gonna draw it this big. I'm going to charge you too much. I'm going to, like, as many things as I can put. So if I do one, it's like $100 or something. And then I'm like, I'm so sorry. This is terrible. You should have known better. So I don't like doing them myself, but I think they're great. And it, like shows like Heroes Con, which is a big original art sketchbook show, you can make like double what you're already making just by selling sketches and commissions. People are like, I just want a drawing of Batman's stupid head. That everyone can do, like, whoop, 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 done. People pay like $50, great. I'll be back in an hour. Is that long enough? Like, it's built in. So, yes, absolutely do it. I just don't like it. I'm not good at it, and I am too prissy to apologize for a bad drawing. I feel so bad. Anyone else? Last question. All right, so this better be a good question. Gladys? Better be good. Yeah, we're all Gladys. Hi, I'm Gladys.
How do you like find out about cons? Like which ones would be good to go to?
Great question. Because I've been thinking about that myself. I was like, I need to do some new ones. Also in some new places I haven't been before. Like where people haven't seen all this schmutz. They're like, a dog in a spacesuit? Sign me up. As opposed to, yeah, I bought that last year, or it was 3 years ago. Being on Twitter, talking to other people, asking that question in a forum like this one, currently go to habitually SPX, that's my best show for sales. HeroesCon is great for me, I live there, so I can Uber to the convention center from my house. And also that I used to work there, so they treat me really well, I get a great spot. The TCAP, hard to get into, very expensive to go to, because it's in another country, you got a passport, or your shipping books, it's like there's a lot of ways I can get too expensive, but Toronto is, such a great city. I don't do MoCA, I've never done MoCA, but partly because New York is just hard. It's hard to schlep around all this. Like if I go travel to show, I bring in a lot of stuff. So it's like a 60-pound suitcase that I've like lied, or like put half of it in my backpack while they're weighing it and then move it back in there. So I don't do MoCA, but everyone says that's great. Just like staying on the radar. One-day shows, like they just had Short Run in Seattle. It's a one-day show that's on the other side of the continent. And it's like being a one-day show makes it hard to make up for travel costs. Whereas a two-day show is a little bit easier, 2 days of sales. If my ticket there is, let's say, at very low end of $300, and I'm going to spend like $100 on food or whatever. Now I've got $400 on. So is it worth it to me to go there and only make another $400 profit? With 2 days of sales, maybe I make $1,000 profit. You know, and so it's like those kind of things are important to think about. And when you are brand new and you just want to, you know, if you have a rich mommy and daddy, then maybe it's like easier. You're like, hey, I'm just starting out, and they're like, yeah, we'll buy you a plane ticket. Great. No shame in that either. Like, take every advantage you can get. But if you're just like, what show will I do? Like, I've done cake. I have done cake in Chicago. That's a good one. In fact, cake is great. And cake is a very LGBT-friendly show. It happens in Boys Town, and it's like basically in the most posh gay gym I've ever seen. It's like a community center. It's really nice. It's above a Whole Foods. So you're like, I'm hungry. I think I'll just go get cool salad. You know, like 10 feet away from the convention. But it's also a great vibe. Awesome. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever met any LGBT people. Nice. So it's a very positive, like family, like kind of vibe. So I would highly recommend that one. We don't test you at the door.
A round of applause for Dustin. Don't forget his talk tomorrow at the library. After that, around 4 o'clock, we'll be setting up the expo. Thanks for coming.